And then that's where it's like it opened my eyes because basically it's like the Philippines, right? There's some banana plants, there's coffee, there's red snapper, and then and there's sampalok. There's and there's like sampalok blossoms, and then I kind of like, oh, this is kind of and also the south the U.S. Southern and the Caribbean also was integrated into that. So and there was a boom also in the south with cornbread and grits and things like that, right? So this is like it started my kind of, as Amy was saying, kind of reimagining my style, and it's still very Western, as I would say. The palette is, as I would say, it's my training was kind of heavy, the heavy sauces and all that stuff. But I always seek something clear, clean, and that's what I was striving for. And then we were playing, for example, with in the town. I was cooking, roasting snapper in coffee beans with some cinnamon and other spices, and then make a sauce out of the coffee beans with coconut milk. And that's how kind of in banana leaves. So that's
I'm so sorry. Can people hear? Can you hear? Maybe if you hold the mic
closer.
Can you check the volume?
Hello?
Can you turn up a little? Can you turn?
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so that's the start. So when I came back here to New York, and I was I got a job as a chef in a seafood restaurant in South Street Seaport at that time, and then that's where I kind of the influence of Philippine came about in terms of everything was kind of light to me, especially with seafood. Not much to be done with it instead of that maasim. And you see maasim everywhere for that, right? So I look for things like rhubarb and sorrel and other things that could substitute for what we have, kamyas. But that's the idea of clean, light dishes. That's the motivation behind my work. And then, of course, went through different phases, and when we started Cendrillon in '95, what do we do? A lot of our friends said, culinary professional friends are saying, dissuaded us from saying, don't open a Filipino restaurant. But she said, what am I gonna do? I'm not French.
We're not white.
We're not white. But anyway. So, but we named the restaurant Cendrillon. French for Cinderella. So I don't know what happened. It became more confused. But then that's where I learned about Amy. Basically trained me or pinupok sa ulo ko. What is the Filipino taste? What? And my job is to capture that in the context of a restaurant, right? As much as possible. And how do we produce that? How do you produce an adobo? How do you produce pancit bihon? But true to, in essence, what it is. So that's my big task. But Amy was always like, hindi ganyan. Hindi na magugustuhan niya. So that's the push. That's the push. We did it. The restaurant was called Asian Grill and Merienda Bar.
You went to Merienda.
If you have been there before, the front section of near the bar was supposed to be the Merienda Bar. And I guess nobody. So in terms of what the evolution of my taste is founded actually on that my experience from the Philippines. My family, we usually have fish all the time, and I'm from Sorsogon, Erosin, Sorsogon, in the Bicol region. Southeast.
Most southern tip of the zone.
So,
Near, if you cross that, you're into Samar already, which is the Visaya. So yeah, their language is like they speak like Visaya, Bicol.
Okay, so that's
Really?
okay. So I think we can fill up the blanks by just your questions. And of course we have evolved from 95 to different places. But one of the problems I think in the restaurant world is that we get stuck to the basic things. And here are some specials here and there, but if you look at it, our menus kind of is not very diverse anymore. It's get confined to a certain classic dishes. And if you go to all kinds of Filipino restaurants or any other restaurants, I guess, it just stays on that same periphery of styles and ingredients. So that's a big challenge, I think, for Filipino restaurants. And what I've noticed now is that some restaurants are using caviar. I think you have probably seen those in Michelin-starred restaurant and prefix restaurants here. So I'm not into that, but I think that's one way of how the restaurant world is, especially when they go into high prices and prices. So I think Amy will talk to that question. I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah, no, that was great. Do you want to speak to that question?
What's the question again? No, I think I think your question deserves like a whole book. You know, like Cendrillon, which we were there for 13 and a half years in Soho. Those years were the best years. I mean, when I left that, I really hated it because our landlords were just so horrible. Like they were jacking up the rents, and they made life so miserable for us that I was just so happy to be out of there. And then years later, I think back, and those years were actually to me probably the happiest years that I've had, especially in the restaurant world, because Cendrillon was my social lab. You know, I learned so much about myself and about Filipinos, about our culture, simply by interacting with people. And towards the end of that, I could already tell whether a Filipino came as an adult, whether they came as a baby, was a teenager, or were born in the U.S. I could really already detect those nuances. And every nuance was just so amazing. And I think though, looking back as an immigrant, and I came to the States already as an adult, right? And we were quite old when we started Cendrillon. We were 45 years old. So we were no spring chickens. But I think we had a certain maturity that we were able to take that experience and turn it into, to me, wisdom and knowledge and total love for people, for our customers, for our culture, for Filipinos. I mean, I came to the conclusion that, well, I think though, I mean, I'll have to confess, I think the people who went there were the best people in the world, you know. So I really think we were spoiled. You know, I mean, when I get out of the milieu that we have, I really get so shocked about how horrible people are because I'm not used to horrible people. You know, like we were spoiled, you know, because the people who went that and became our friends and just gave us connections and social, developed our social fabric. It just simply had, to me, what characterized Filipinos are probably the friendliest, the most generous, most loving people I've ever met. And not to say that other people are not, right? But I've totally deepened my love. I mean, it's like I cannot describe it. And it turned so many things for me. Like, I remember because, I'm kind of like a fugitive of martial law. You know, I left. I knew. Talking about suspension of habeas corpus now, it's just sending chills down my spine. Mm-hmm. Because when Marcos suspended the writ of habeas corpus in the Philippines, I knew I was gone. That's when I made that decision, especially when I understood what it meant, right? Habeas corpus, it means to produce the body. So if you don't have it, they could throw you in jail, throw away the key, and you'll never see the light of day again, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's, guys, you better fight for that, because I know what it means. So then I left, right? And I didn't go home until the 1990s. So I was gone for 20 years. I did not recognize my country when I went back. And then I would be seeing all these children of my friends coming visiting here and telling me what they ate for lunch. I was like, what? You know, like, oh, you know, when we were in school, we would get steamed rice, and then we bought these toyo mansi packets. And they would put that on the rice, and that's their lunch. And these are not poor people, right? These are children of affluent people. Like, what culture are you grow up in, right? Like, my generation would never eat that for lunch, right? I mean, don't even serve us sandwiches. Don't even serve me bread for lunch, you know? Like, you know. So, you know, I used to go home every 4 years after that, and every single time I would go home and come back, I would be probably in a 6-month depression. Because all I saw were the bad things that martial law did to the country. I mean, I traveled all over because I was doing all my informal research on food. I just love Filipino food so much that every time I would go home, I would like travel all over because I had friends in many areas. So I was already actually laying the groundwork for whatever we were doing later on, right? So we would go to Bacolod because I had relatives there, and then from there, you know, we would go to, you know, go through Luzon and Mindanao and all that. And I saw a lot of poverty, and I would be so angry to see it, because I know that the Philippines is not poor. It's not a poor country. There's a lot of rich people there. They just aren't giving it back to the people. So every time I would come back here, I'd be really depressed, you know, because it's the feeling of helplessness, right? Like, you can see the injustice because, you know, we were left wing, you know, we understood the political dynamics and what happened, the history. We knew that, right? So it's much more painful to know that. So then every 4 years I would do that, and I'd go through the same thing. And then in 2003, we got a book contract to write about the food in the Philippines, and I decided to call it Memories of Philippine Kitchens because I dare not say this is a Philippine cookbook. You know, I have no knowledge, wisdom, authority to claim something that I write or speak about as Philippine, like in any authority, because no one can ever describe it or capture it in its entirety, because it is so rich, so deep, so just so layered and dynamic and organic. It changes all the time. Like every time I travel, my mind always gets blown, you know, that, oh, I learned something new, and, you know, people are always showing me things, you know, you go to the poorest barangay, you know, like, you know, you drive around there, it's just amazing, you know, oh, you know, why don't we go here and knock on the doors? I mean, we did that, right? And say, can you tell me what you do, what you cook? And people will tell you, you know, that's, I mean, just, you know, and if you explain to them, oh, I'm from New York, I want to learn about what you do. Oh, you know, they act like kings. Like, oh, this is about the gabi, right? The taro. This is what you do when you do this. You know, you don't, you know, you have to know exactly which taro leaf to get. Otherwise, you'll get itchy, and and you need to look for them in swampy water or running water. So then this stage of the plant, that's what you get. And like they will lord it over to you like for hours, that so much knowledge, right? And then like talk to people like, how can you tell what stage the coconut is in? Oh, I just have the back of my knife and I tap it a few and I know exactly. I don't have to open it. So anyway, when I got that book contract and the publisher gave me money, a good budget to travel around for 3 months with Neil Oshima in tow, my photographer. I made a pact with myself. I said, you are not going there to see the bad things and be depressed. You are going to see the good things and be happy and joyful. And that's what I did. I was able to do it. And that's how I was able to write the book. And it really helps. And it's not like, it's not, I wouldn't call it like a Pollyanna kind of thing. I think if you really base your love and your joy on real things, like, right, I met this guy who told me how to tell a coconut with the back of his, like, I just like so love it. Like, I love it. And it's something real, and like, oh my God, these people really know much more than all these scientists everywhere in the universities. They know the land, they know food better than any Michelin star chef. Those are the real people. Those are the people who deserve stars, because they have the knowledge. And I felt so privileged to be able to somehow pass a little bit of that and put it in the book, right? So, basically that's what I learned, and hopefully we have been able to translate that love and joy in the restaurant and in the food. And that's actually the palette, right? And palette, when you talk about the palette, I was so shocked to learn this like maybe only 5 or 6 years ago when because I opened up a private dine-in for a brief period of time. We had to close it during COVID in my childhood home in Nakpil. So we had a private dine-in. People could reserve. You had to make a reservation, and we did a tasting menu, and we opened for 2 people. Right? So if 2 people reserve, the whole staff would be there to make a whole meal for you. Because I just wanted, if you were interested to come to Nakpil to try our food, heck, we're gonna do it for you, right? Yeah. If someone shows you they're interested and they love the food, I'll do it. Why, people who want this food, they're gifts. I'm grateful there are maybe 2 people who want to eat at our place that night. I'll do it, So, and the whole staff told me they wanted to do it. They were the ones who made that decision. We should open even for 2. Because, we were able to gather all this beautiful things all over the country and put it in that menu, right? Rice from the Cordillera, salt from Zambales, and even the salts and the sugars and the coffee. The coffee came from Benguet. Everything, like, we partnered with Good Food Community, which deals with 200 organic farmers, and we would get from them, and every tiny little thing down to like when we make our buko pie, we use nipa starch instead of cornstarch. Nipa starch is, you know, communities in Maguindanao do that, and that's their livelihood. So I said, hey, you know, it comes from a palm and it pairs with buko, which is also a palm, instead of corn. Corn doesn't belong there. You know, cornstarch is usually the thickener. Corn doesn't belong there, so nipa starch, which is from our people, and it's not cheap. It's like 600 pesos for for a little bag, you know. But we use it, you know, and I don't mind paying for it because it supports that community. So in every way, then we made stories and told that to people who ate there. And they went there because they liked the stories. Oh, you know, this you know, there are farmers that do this. Oh, and the indigenous people, we got a lot from the indigenous people also, because I would get, if anyone offers you products from indigenous people in the Philippines, get it. You know why? Because their land is untainted. They are not developed in any way. There's no strangers go there. The interior is protected. Nobody goes there. So they bring out their bananas, their honey, whatever they grow inside. They sell it and we buy it. I know there's no chemicals in that stuff. So you buy it. It's the best, right? So, and then you support them also, right? So, you know, like that was, you know, we had to close it during COVID, and well, honestly, it was not sustainable anymore, right? I would be losing all my money if I keep doing that. So now we're doing bakery, and we're trying to make money now, but still using the same philosophy. Right? But then, you know, when one of our guests there was a chemistry professor of La Salle, and she was explaining to me what flavor and palate, and he said, oh, you know, for every flavor, salt, sugar, you know, whatever, there's a specific receptor in your mouth that receives it. Right? So, wow, okay. So, you know, I was like, oh my God, there are really specific receptors for salt, for sugar, for sweet, you know, for whatever, right? So, you know, I thought it was great. So it's good to learn that and how it functions. But then, for me, palate, again, is beyond that. And it has a lot to do with memory and you know, like I was talking to Caroline, and she said she's from San Miguel. Her father's from San Miguel, Pampanga. You know, we went to San Miguel several times because they do very good puto there, and they're kind of famous for sweets there. San Miguel is, when you say San Miguel, it means sweet. So, you know, just even the mention of San Miguel, my flavor stuff started going sweet, you know. You know, it's so, you know, like, and if you say Ilocano food, you know, then you think of the bagong, you know, the dinding, right? And the what do you call those big
Bagnet.
The bagnet and all that, and the ampalaya, bitter, right? That's where bitter comes from. So all these, and then you know, all these areas have their memory banks of, you know, eating what was locally there. You know? And you know, if you study sourness in the Philippines, you'll never run out. I mean, they use so many things to sour food, right? Leaves, twigs, you know, other than the normal things that you know of, like all the citruses.
Personality.
So, as an immigrant that came here as an adult, that was a huge advantage because I don't know, I felt like I could like look at the whole thing and remove myself from this, from the scene and just look at it objectively and figure out, oh, that's happening there, and then, this is how I'm gonna function because of this, right? And I've come to the conclusion in terms of food, and this is what I tell people, look, stop comparing Filipino food. Stop, I get so mad. Stop saying this is not Filipino food.
Thank you.
I said the next time someone tells me that, I'll shoot you, Who are you to say that, right? So, for me, I wanted to, this is my message to people, they're different. Food in the Philippines is different from food that the immigrant brought here and what Filipino Americans make here. They're all totally different food. They may share some historical roots, some flavors, some ingredients, but they should own it. Filipino Americans should own their history, their place in this country, they should determine what their palates are and what they like, what they don't like, and what they make out of that. That's their food, and it's legitimate food.
Yes.